At some point when you're working with Kubernetes, you're going to have to figure out what you want to do with volumes. And the reason why is because pods by default are ephemeral. They're meant to go away. They're not meant to sit around for days, weeks, months, years, etc. like a virtual machine. They're really meant to just go down, come up whenever they need to. Now, because of that, the application inside of your pods might need some stateful data. It might need to be able to store some stuff. So to do that, you can work with volumes. Now, I'm going to be showing how to do this in Azure. However, the YAML manifest that I show, it's going to be the same thing across the board. And I'm going to be using Minikube locally to deploy everything. Now, first things first, I have an Azure storage account here. And again, you could do the same thing with AWS, GCP, etc. Now within my storage account, I pulled one that I already had. It's called tfstate92sg. That's a storage account name. And then I created a new file share called YouTube. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to VS Code, and I'm going to show first the local volume and what it looks like, and then the Azure volume. Now, as you can see here, I'm using a pod. That's the spec that I'm using in my Kubernetes manifest. And then in the containers, I'm just using this default BusyBox image. And then as you can see, the real juice of it all is under volume mounts. So under volume mounts, you can see that I have a mount. It's called config volume. And then the mount path is /etc/config. So of course, this would be on some type of Linux or Mac OS environment. And then you have the volumes down here, which specifies the config volume. I'm not going to run this, but this is pretty much the way it's always going to look for any type of volume. Like if you're connecting to, I don't know, some server, and then you're storing all of the data, all of the stateful data rather, on that server, you'll have a config volume, and then you'll have your mount point, and the way that you can create that is, of course, with a Kubernetes volume. Now, let's think about this for a second, because this is the reality. You could do this. You could store this data on like a server or something like that. But what if that server goes down? Like, it's not realistic in today's world. You kind of want to put that data somewhere that like you almost don't have to worry about it. Well, not worry about it, but you don't want to have to like really have to constantly think about it, where it is it getting backed up, is it safe, etc. And that's kind of where like these cloud volumes come into play. So let me pop over to this YAML manifest, and as you can see, it actually looks more or less the same. Like you have your volume mounts here, like you do on your local, and then you have your volumes parameter here. Okay. Now the only difference is we're using CSI, and what CSI is a volume interface. So it's for like file storage and stuff like that, CSI, and it stands for Container Storage Interface. Now for our container storage interface, we're going to need a specific driver. Now for Azure, for file shares, this is the driver right here. And then the volume attributes, we're going to need a secret, and that Kubernetes secret is what we use to authenticate to Azure via our Kubernetes manifest. And then our share name. So if we head over to the browser really quick, we see that that's our share name. But of course, we need a way to connect to this share. So how do we do that? Well, I have some commands here. We'll run for a Kubernetes secret. Now, first things first, as you can see, I already ran that, oopsie daisies, but that's okay. I was just testing. Let's go ahead and run it ourselves. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to commit these variables to memory here. And this is going to be for the storage account and then the resource group name that the storage account exists in. Now, the storage key variable, this is going to run a command, and the command is az storage account keys list. We're going to specify our resource group name, our account name, and then we're going to query the value. Now, why are we doing that? Because we need to authenticate to Azure. So let's go ahead and run that. Okay, then we have our storage key here. We can see that printed out. Clear my screen. And then finally, we're going to create a Kubernetes secret. So we're going to run kubectl, create secret. It's going to be a generic secret. And then we're going to call it Azure secret. And then we're going to specify the storage account name and then the storage account key So as you can see, the secret is called Azure Secret. And in the volume here, we're specifying that right here on line 17. So let's go ahead and run this command. Okay, and as we can see, our secret was created. We'll just confirm that. And boom, as we can see, we have our Azure Secret here. So now we're ready to run our actual manifest. So I'm going to clear my screen. I'm going to run kubectl create -f Azure volume. As we can see, our pod was created. We'll run kubectl get pods. And that's how you can get started using Azure file shares and Kubernetes volumes right now.